Hi there, everybody. Sorry for not having one up last week, but I was on vacation and just wasn't really able to pull it together. But we are back with another week's edition of the Sean'sPickOfTheDay.com Picks of the Week. The theme for this week was Go West, Young Gamer, and it was inspired in part because of the recent release and popularity of the appearance of 3rd edition Boot Hill, which you can see on the screen here. Boot Hill was the first ever Wild West role-playing game published way back when by TSR, when they were trying to both break out into doing other genres as well as doing a new game system. In other words, they wanted to do a different set of mechanics not based on the Dungeons & Dragons engine. They continued with that all the way through the 3rd edition, which came out... I'm trying to remember exactly when it came out, but it came out in it was still, TSR was still around, let's just put it that way. So, what we had to say about that was Boot Hill 3rd Edition. Copies sell on Amazon for $125 or more, making the recent release of Boot Hill Wild West role-playing game 3rd Edition on Drive-Thru RPG a pretty big damn deal. Originally released, there it is, 1990. This was Steve Winter, with some help from Gary Gygax and Brian Bloom before the war between them changed everything, taking one last crack at doing a compelling Western-themed RPG for TSR, and by many accounts, succeeding very admirably. And yes, it's available in softcover print on demand. Welcome to Go West Young Gamer Week. So yeah, that's the big deal, is that because they've made it available and they have made it available in softcover, that means those $125 print versions that are out there, if you just want it in print, you can get it for a heck of a lot cheaper now. Extensive information about the product here. Drift back to the days of cattle drives, dance halls, range wars, and gunslingers. The Boot Hill Wild West role-playing game lets you relive the grand adventure of the American frontier. It's a wide-open land where a man with strength, determination, and courage can carve a place for himself. The 3rd edition of the classic Boot Hill game is thoroughly revised and updated, including fully rounded characters with over 60 skills to choose from, revised rules for shootouts and fistfights, emphasizing quick thinking and quick action, extensive campaign guidelines, plus historical background and a timeline of the Old West, 2 historical gunfight scenarios, plus numerous short adventures, fold-out maps with Promise City and the surrounding territory. Now, that last bit is only really available... you could print them out yourself, but if you want them, they come with the print-on-demand option. So that was our first pick of the week. We move on to Jadepunk, Tales from Kaohsiung City. I'm pretty sure I am mispronouncing that. There's an interesting subgenre where Asian fantasy runs smack into the Wild West and mixes it up beautifully. I was introduced to it via a strange and fun movie called Bunraku, and I know there are many others. We are, in fact, watching The Good, the Bad, the Weird this coming Wednesday for Evil Boogaloo Movie Club. Now, this was past Wednesday. Actually, that was a little bit more just pulp western set in the 1930s era, with a little bit of history and style kind of thrown in. I'm actually far more fascinated by the actual fantasy elements of both wuxia and Japanese fantasy mixed with the Wild West thing. Kind of still be looking for some stuff like that. Jadepunk kind of scratches that itch, though. Naturally, you'll find these mashups permeating the gaming space, and Jadepunk Tales from Kaohsiung City is a standout example thereof. This is the West as wild as it gets, with full-bore steampunk meeting wuxia excitement in the Fate system. It's also a very popular release on Drive-Thru, and they've got a few other products supporting that. And there's a extensive sales text there. Going to go ahead and just skip to this part. Jadepunk Tales from Kaohsiung City is a Fate core role-playing game about rebellious wuxia heroes in a fictional steampunk setting. Within its pages, you'll find an original setting that fuses the themes of Western steampunk and Asian wuxia, the storytelling system of creating character aspects that immerses them in the setting, a comprehensive asset system that lets you make any kind of device, martial arts technique, or companion you can imagine, new dueling mechanics that use the contest system for fast and furious combat that won't have the rest of your group sitting idly by, streamlined rules for game masters that give them the power to create scenes on the fly with the use of the scene fractal, and a new way of creating minor NPCs that takes no prep time. Faces gives you everything you need to make an unimportant NPC feel alive and memorable. So that's kind of moving further into the fantastic of West. We move on to Wednesday's pick, which was the Doghouse Rules release of Frontier Town's Fort Griffin, the Savaged version. Savage Worlds, of course, is an extraordinarily good system for Old West-style gameplay, as can be exhibited by the Savage version of the Deadlands game, which of course, that's where Savage Worlds comes from. It originally is a boiling down of the Deadlands system, and then so on and so forth. So as we mosey on through Go West Young Gamer Week, this neat piece from Doghouse Rules stands out as mighty useful for anyone running a Western game. It's especially helpful for those for whom the game is Savage, whether it's Deadlands or a more traditional romp through Savage West. Whether you're running it in Savage Worlds or not, there are over 150 pages of detailed material fully fleshing out this frontier fort and town so that you could set a band of cowboys and adventurers bound for the promise of freedom and discovery beyond the Mississippi. So this thing's got maps and characters and history and details that are going to work for anybody running any Western game. Doesn't really matter what the setting is, but they savaged it for those who are using Savage Worlds. Just some examples of some stuff that are in there. There's the Fort Griffin main document, 154 pages containing descriptions of the town, affectionately known as the Flat, with detailed establishments, embedded maps, personalities, and plenty of adventure hooks to keep players busy for ages. The Flat Personality Pack, 37 pages containing character cards to aid the judge in fast and furious game pace, whether gunfire breaks out or because a PC interaction with a prominent personality needs a quick as lightning trait test resolution. And the Flat Map Pack, a set of files with all the maps a judge might need, including tiled versions for printing a tabletop map with or without the grid, as well as a virtual tabletop version for the folks who prefer one or those newfangled electronic tabletop contraptions. And as you can see, as I'm scrolling through, there's tons and tons of places and such. Shancy's Saloon, Planter's Hotel, Lewis Wolfform's Bakery, Shen's Laundry, Doc Culver's, F.B. York's Bank, and so on and so forth. So this thing has got all kinds of information. If you're running Savage or not, this is going to be useful. Move on to Thursday, and one of the more famous releases from the old days of White Wolf and Storyteller, the original World of Darkness. You've got Werewolf, the Wild West. In the original World of Darkness, the werefolk fought the worm for a long time. That battle raged through the Old West for a time. With an all-star cast in the writing credits, Justin Achille, Nikki Rea, Phil Brucato, Rich Dansky, Jackie Cassada, Tim Bird, Heather Heckel, and many more, Werewolf the Wild West is a run through the Wild West and a fine entry for our Go West Young Gamer Week. Now, the sales text on this was just a fairly poetic sort of flavor text narrative thing. What was interesting to me is that there was a typo in it. We can't be killed by lead nor flint. We are favored ones. I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not, but I didn't bother correcting it in my recopy of the flavor text. So you'll have to decide for yourself. But I do know that a lot of people really enjoy the idea of werewolves, cowboys, and Indians, and there you go. Moving on to the last pick, that was today's pick, Deadlands 20th Anniversary Edition. Now, I could have, of course, picked the Deadlands Reloaded, or, the Savage Worlds version of Deadlands, but this was kind of a big deal when it came out. A lot of people were very excited about it, and it really does seem to fit as our final pick for the week. Deadlands, Classic Deadlands, the 20th Anniversary Edition, rounding out our Go West Young Gamer Week, is what many view as the grandest expression of gaming set in that era, Deadlands Classic. This is the extra special 20th Anniversary Edition, lovingly put together by the original gang of Shane Hensley, John Hoppler, Matt Forbeck, and Hal Mangold, along with a ton of folks involved all along the way. Even has the original Bruce Campbell forward, where everyone gets called a knucklehead. I'm not kidding, it really happened. It's the classic through and through, just cleaned up a little bit and integrating the player and martial stuff into one grand book. So this is all of it. Deadlands was originally released in 1996 as its 20th Anniversary Edition, republished in full color in 2016. Important note, this book does not require Savage Worlds or Deadlands Reloaded to play. It is a standalone game compatible with all the books labeled Deadlands Classics. Deadlands Reloaded is the later edition of the game that uses the Savage Worlds core rules. Now, there is you can go to Pinnacle's website and find a conversion document that makes it really possible for you to take Deadlands Reloaded stuff and convert it over to use in Classic Deadlands or vice versa, so depending on which way you want to play the game. So, there is actually another reason why I wanted to do this theme this week. We have something else that's coming out soon. It's called Six Gun Fury. Now, while I'm at it, I'm just going to find that real quick for y'all. Just going to take me a second here. So let me just bring that into the screen so that you can see it, because I think it's kind of exciting. See if I can bring that around there. And I'm going to need to zoom that out a bit so that you can see it a little bit better. Hang on just 1 second. Oh, no, apparently... Oh, okay, so Six Gun Fury. Let me try that. And there we go. So Six Gun Fury. There's actually a much nicer layout that Len has done. But I just wanted to point out, this is early on thing that we're working on here. He did a game called Magnum Fury some time ago. And Magnum Fury is a really, really cool game that uses 2d6 plus basic number resolution. It's very narrative-driven. It's very much in the vein of those who like player narrative-driven games. But it has a cinematic, 80s, 90s action hero kind of thing going on. And Six Gun Fury is his take on that as applied to cinematic westerns. So keep your eyes out because that's going to be coming out soon. All right, so that is our picks of the week. Thanks again for watching and appreciate you guys and your support. And we'll see you next week.